Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special version of Away Days. It is the Cup Special semi-finals. We're here. This is it. This is what all Newcastle fans have been waiting for: the opportunity to fight for a place in a final, in a cup final. And we are super excited to be talking about it tonight with you all. We were just saying as we're going live and the intro was going, the chat is buzzing already. Welcome to Daniel Much. First time watching live. He always tends to watch afterwards, but great to have you in. Of course, Lisa, our resident mod and super supporter of Loaded Mag NUFC. Geordie Tune for Life. Would I Eat There? Gary Milligan, Russ, another super sponsor at the channel. Michael Palmer, list goes on. You've got Les in the chat. We keep going. There's so more keep popping up. Mark Todd as well. Great to have you all in the chat. Get your questions in for Mike, who will be coming on shortly. But Chris, how are you, my man? How's things? Back again, of course. Brandy and Blaze in the house, back again for an Away Days special. How are you feeling in the build-up to this game? Obviously, don't want to talk too much about Palace because we've been there, done that. Excited about the cup. What your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown quantity for us, this, isn't it? I've never ever, well, certainly not this season. I didn't think we'd ever be having an Away Days show talking about a semi-final. So very excited, as I'm sure Mike probably feels exactly the same. Our guest, being in the semi-final of a cup, it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, really looking forward to the game. Actually, be interesting to see how we fare. I'm really interested to see how we line up as well. Yeah. So yeah, lots of positivity. Looking forward to it. But kind of feeling as well, like still got one eye on the Premier League. Like, it's been all about the Premier League, hasn't it? And I know obviously, we want to progress, we want to get it through to the final, get to Wembley. But yeah, still got one eye on the Premier League as well. So that's kind of where I am. And by the way, Pete, like I was laughing when the credits were rolling. Like we couldn't have picked two brighter t-shirts today, could we? Like if we tried, we couldn't do it. So yeah. And then I thought, I'm wearing a red shirt, the one time in the semi-final, I look like a Southampton fan. I don't know what I'm doing.
There's always one.
I know.
Don't worry about it. But look, definitely exciting times, and it will be really interesting to get his thoughts. So let's get him in for Matchday Vlogs. Southampton fan, Mike, welcome back again. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good indeed. No, it's good to be here. I was just being amused by your clothing wear tonight, and I've gone for like the boring blue gingham dark. What's it like? Your away kit, isn't it? It's like the dark blue. We've got it all wrong. We should switch it up. So there we go.
Yeah, we need to 100%. But no, great to have you on. And I'm going to ask you straight off the bat. Obviously, looking at the semi-final, is it nice? And in no disrespect at all, but is it nice to just be thinking about the cup and not the league with the season it's looking like you're having at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, really. I mean, I think the whole kind of the fact that we're in the cup, we're also still in the FA Cup. It's not for everyone. And
the digs are coming in.
Shots fired. No, it's nice. I mean, effectively, we've got 3 cup games. We've got tomorrow night at home to you guys. We've got the FA Cup on Saturday, and then we've got. So it was kind of strange after the loss against Aston Villa to think that actually that was our last league game in the Premier League until February the 4th or something like that. So it's a long way off. But this cup run's been pretty good. It's been all over the place, if I'm completely honest with you. I mean, we narrowly beat Sheffield Wednesday. We went a goal down to Lincoln City and somehow clawed that back to 2-1. And then out of nothing, I mean, all of us went to the Man City game thinking like, well, this will be a laugh on it. Let's go and have a pint and have a good old chat. And suddenly our team's on fire. And, okay, they were a little bit sluggish that night, but it's great, and like you say, to be in a semi-final, it's not something that certainly ourselves comes up that often. Last time was up against Liverpool many seasons back. So yeah, no, it is nice, very nice.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And look, nobody can. I don't think anybody can disrespect. And Chris, I get your thoughts on this. Um, the way in which you've got to the semi-final, knocking out Man City, doesn't matter whether they're sluggish or not. You know the type of team and the type of players they've got, even in reserve. So for you to beat them the way that you did, and it could have been by more. Is a fantastic result. And look, Chris, I'll come to you on that because we were live at the time when the game was on, and you were I think you were keeping everyone, you and Lisa in the chat, keeping everyone in touch about what was going on, because it was like Mike said, I don't think it was expected by anyone, but a great
It's
result.
when we had Keith Downey on, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, mate, yeah, like, honestly, mate, I should have had this top on, actually, because I was just Southampton through and through that night. And I remember at one point I had my arms in the air, but I'd left my mute on. And everyone was like, Chris is celebrating. What's he celebrating for? And then when I came back on and said it's 2-0, Pete was just like, nah, I'm not having it. And I was like, Pete, it's 2-0. We couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm assuming, were you at that game?
I was, and I was doing the same thing with Jack next to me. I was like, I can't believe it. It's 2-0. Yeah, it's happening right in front of you. But it is the way we scored those goals as well. There were
Good
two
goals.
Great goals, and I think that was something that was kind of like, before that we hadn't seen a single goal from open play from Nathan Jones's football at St Mary's or on the road. So to score two like that, and you crazy that's the first clean sheet we've had at St Mary's all season was that Man City game.
Wow.
Which I just
and the was it Gineppo?
Now, don't I? It was Gineppo. Lobbing the keeper.
Just the way he just lobbed him. It was Philippe Albert-esque. It was great.
Great stuff. And look, it's interesting because you've mentioned Nathan Jones. Obviously, he came in. I think, if I'm right in thinking, Ralph Hasenhüttl's last game was against Newcastle at St Mary's. The last time you were on away days, and the last time we obviously previewed the game, I think it finished 4-1. And so Nathan Jones came in. I think just after that or during the break. I think it might have been just before, actually. But how or what has he done differently? What has he done differently? Has he done anything differently? Are you more excited by this appointment and what he's done so far? What are your just general thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, when he first came in, I think any Southampton fan out there that would say that they weren't underwhelmed by it are probably lying to themselves. And I think everyone's thinking, who are we linked with? Is some, European name that's doing it in Latin America or out in Europe somewhere else or somewhere like that. And, when, you're linked with the Luton Town manager, you kind of sort of feeling a little bit deflated, but he has done some decent things at decent clubs. He went to Stoke, didn't do very well there, went back to Luton and did a lot with not a lot that he had to work with. And I'll be quite honest with you, the first few performances, with the exception of the Liverpool away one, because effectively you guys sacked Ralph, and then a day later, the decision was made, and then we had the game against Sheffield Wednesday, and then the day after that it was announced, and he was away at Liverpool. But the first few games, we were kind of thinking, what is this? Because he was very insistent on playing with three centre-backs, which is something we've kind of looked very uncomfortable with. Not really utilising our wingers or our wing backs or whatever they're positioned in, and it kind of felt very stagnant, very hit and hope and hoofing. And I think it was more to do with the players just not knowing the system. They've been working with a very unique, that sort of gag and press that they were doing in the German league, where effectively is very entertaining football to watch, but is leaky at the back. So it was really just a case of we got to shut up shop and stop conceding goals and really go with that. So the first few performances were kind of very underwhelming. I think the loss against Nottingham Forest at home was probably the worst I've ever seen Southampton play at St Mary's. It was just absolutely horrendous. And when we went away to Fulham, we saw some promising things there. And then that result away at Crystal Palace, where we got a 2-1 win. Okay, I think we were gifted a couple of goals there. Wasn't as impressed with that as we were against the Man City result. But then ever since then, we've seen sort of glimmers that actually there's football being played here, and there is an idea of doing it, but we're still lacking in the fact that we don't have, that out-and-out striker up front, and we don't really have much backup in midfield. But one positive that he has done is actually moved Ward-Prowse to be in a number 10 position. So, which is hence the reason why he scored a couple of goals at Everton. Well, one of them was from a free kick, as we know. But yeah, certainly pushing Ward-Prowse further forward has probably saved Ward-Prowse this season. He's suddenly playing great football. So that has been one particular positive.
Interesting.
There's a lot there, wasn't there? Sorry, I went on for ages.
No. It's great because we are effectively coming up against a different Southampton team. From the last time we played you, and I think certainly from a viewer's perspective, it's important to get that perspective from yourself on how things have changed, because you will get some fans that think, oh yeah, we beat them 4-1 at St Mary's, we can go and do that again, and yes, we could potentially do that, but actually we're not playing against the same team now. These players have got a different mindset, they're playing a different style of football. You just mentioned Ward-Prowse is moved further forward, so that'll be something no doubt within Eddie Howe's thinking, and we might touch on that a little bit later on with the tactics board. But from your perspective, I'm thinking, who has been, aside from James Ward-Prowse, the biggest kind of benefactor from Nathan Jones coming in, who's really benefited from that, who's really kicked on, from him coming in? Is there a player that's come from outside in the cold that's come into the team and made a difference, or are there players that have been shipped out because they're maybe not part of Jones's plans? What is sort of the major difference aside from James Ward-Prowse?
Yeah. Dushka Letakar has been absolute stalwart in the centre of defence. We started off with Lianco playing right in the centre of the three, and Lianco, I love him. He's amazing. He gets the crowd going, but he's a liability, and he can effectively go for a header and lay up an attacker to be on for goal. So he's got a mistake in him there. And then we moved him out to the right and moved Dushka Letakar right in the middle, and he's been an absolute beast. I mean, he's such a well-experienced defender, big Croatian, and really just holds it together. And it just gives Lianco and Salasu either side of him to be a bit more risk-taking, because there's still two of them to back up if one of them, gets caught short or whatever. Yeah. So that's been a big thing. Romeo Lavia, who's been come back in, he's now fit. The system that we've been playing him in now, I kind of think that he still needs a bit more space to play, because he was pretty much working as a number 6 and creative midfielder. Effectively, the ball would be played to him, and then he would do that creative pass up front and create all kinds of trouble. He's now sort of playing like a pivot sort of defensive role in midfield, with probably Ibrahima Diallo, who's not been as great. Yeah, he was pretty good in the Man City game, if I'm honest, but he's still not quite Premier League quality, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, Romeo Lavia has been great. Samuel Dozie on the wing has been left to do some creative stuff. Very young. Man? That's the fella. Yeah, he's sort of very quick.
More, hasn't he? I've noticed he's been starting a few more games.
Yes, I mean, we do have a lot of youth in our squad. I believe, along with Arsenal, we have the youngest squad in the Premier League. So I think with a lot of the signings that come in recently, Orsic, who's come in, to really add a bit of experience. Jan Bednarek, love him or hate him, he's come back into the side from a loan period at Aston Villa to provide a little bit of experience. I'm not sure how much that's going to give us, if I'm completely honest, in terms of we just need to be winning games, and the margins are so small. But yeah, I would say those players there. Our man Shay Adams, he'll be in complete agreement with me in this. He's not been his best, and I think he'll know that he can do. He's much better than he has been shown lately, which has been disappointing for the lad. But But alongside that, he hasn't really had that much backup. I mean, we've got Adam Armstrong, who you guys will know, has only scored, was it one league goal in like, a very long period. I believe it's pretty much all of 2022. So it's disappointing not to have, goal scorers, with the exception of Shea Adams and James Ward-Prowse, really. Sakou Mara is another one, came in from the French league, but really he was never supposed to be the number one striker. He was basically supposed to be in the B side for a season or two and then sort of work his way up, because we didn't get who we wanted in the summer, and here we are in January struggling to get a striker through the door at the moment. So it is a concern. It is a concern.
Yeah, because just going back to Shea Adams, he was heavily linked with a move away. From Southampton. At one point, it looked like, and I'm glad he didn't. It looked like he was going to go to Everton. And then I think Leeds were heavily linked with him as well. Do you think that maybe is the reason why he was kind of in and out and maybe not featuring as much? Do you think his head was turned slightly with the issues with Ralph Hasenhüttl, and now with Jones coming in, it may have changed his mindset slightly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more to do with confidence more than anything, and also the service that our strikers have been getting. I mean, as much as I can give Adam Armstrong and Shea Adams a hard time, the service up front hasn't been there, and I think having James Ward-Prowse in a more forward role is basically then creating him as more of a, he could be that striker that we're looking for. It's crazy to think that, but he could be the person that's suddenly getting us the goals, and then are we working with sort of more wide players and just one up top. So I don't want to put a ton of sort of blame on our strikers, but I don't think his head was turned. I think it's just more a case of learning a new system, working with a new coach. He played great against Leicester away. We got a 2-1 win. He scored both goals. He looked fantastic, and then goes away to Wolves and goes for a header and it bounces off his arm into the net, and all these kind of silly things that are going to shake the confidence of a striker. So yeah, it's I'm sure he'll be back fighting fit.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's already a couple of questions popped up in the chat. Chris, I don't know if you want to go to a couple of questions for Mike just to get it started from a chat perspective. He's on mute. He's done the old mute again. I wonder why it went radio silent.
do you know what? When you said it as well, I was laughing. I thought you were talking about Michael Pomar. I was like, oh, Michael Pomar. Then I was like, oh no, it's me.
Love it.
So, question from Michael Pomar. He says, what would you consider a good result? So I'm assuming he's meaning tomorrow. One that you would fancy your chances holding on to tomorrow. Is it a must win for Southampton?
Good question.
It is a great question. And actually, I was asked this on our show last week, actually, because we were getting ahead of ourselves after the Villa preview. I think for us to get anything out of this, we need to, because I kind of had this feeling that Newcastle would not be happy, but they would be okay with getting a draw at St Mary's, because they'd be super confident of what they can do at St James's Park. And I think it all depends on what side shows up tomorrow night. And for me, if we can get a lead, whether it be 1 or 2, I know you guys don't concede a lot of goals, so let's go with 1. Then it's that expectation of if we go to St James's Park and you're behind it and it gets to half time and it's still 0-0, it's that kind of anxiety, and will the crowd suddenly get a bit anxious, and will that sort of feed onto the pitch, onto the players? It's that sort of thing that, because to be honest with you, everyone's saying, oh, it's so lucky for Newcastle that they've got the second leg at their place. And I was thinking, well, actually no, because I wouldn't fancy the second leg at our place, because our crowd will be super anxious. It'll feed onto the pitch and the pressure will be on. So we're much better without that kind of pressure there. But that's an away ground that perhaps not St James's Park, which it's super intimidating place to go. So, but you see what I'm saying in the sense that in terms of the second leg thing, I wasn't too fussed about that. I just would have preferred it to be Nottingham Forest, if I'm honest. But I would say we've got to get a lead at St Mary's and somehow get a clean sheet. That's what I'm hoping for. That would be a good result.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Mike's made some. It was a great question from Michael, but Mike's made some great points with regards to that. Is that obviously it does favour us, Chris, the fact that the second leg is at St James's Park. We know, and Mike, I don't know if you watched the quarterfinals when we played Leicester. We know that when it's a big game, St James's Park always answers with the fans, the flags. War flags with their banners and really create an atmosphere and drum up. So we know that's going to happen the second leg, and we know that's going to make sure that the players are bang up for it. You get some players that freeze in that moment, but we show it against Leicester that when we really want it, that we can rise to the occasion. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. But from your perspective, Chris, what are you looking at from a Newcastle perspective? What would you consider? What would you consider a good result? I'm not asking you for your prediction, but what I'm saying is just in general, what would you walk away with on Tuesday night thinking, that's a good result for Newcastle United?
Yeah, I mean, I was nodding when Mike was talking about wanting a draw. I mean, to be honest, if we went to St Mary's and got a draw, I'd feel mega confident for the return leg, and for the exact reasons that you've just said, Pete. Like St James's Park at the minute, because of all the positivity and war flags, and everyone being excited about getting to Wembley and a cup final. I think if we go to St James's, if we go to St Mary's and we come away with a draw, I feel really, really confident going into the second leg. Like you won't have seen it, Mike, but when the cup draw was on, all I kept banging on about was I want the first leg to be away. I want it to be away because I know that kind of a bit of the opposite of what you said. Like I think if the first leg for us was at home, obviously everyone would be bouncing, everyone would be made up, but then you've always got that element of doubt where you think, what about going away? What's the ground going to be like? If we only took a narrow lead to St Mary's, if you scored early on, would we be thinking, oh no, we should have done better at St James's? So the fact that the first leg is at St Mary's, I think plays into our hands really well, just for the way that we are at the moment. Under Steve Bruce, I probably would have had the same attitude that you had in terms of, it would have been nervous, it would have been anxious, it would have been tense. But I think under the ownership now, I think it does benefit us. So for me, Pete, to answer your question, obviously everyone wants a win, a narrow win even, but I think if we got a draw, I'd feel very confident going into the second leg.
I'm of the same. I'm of the same. Just really, really quickly, not transfer related, but Newcastle just announced that there are a small number of tickets for the home game, second leg, that are going to be available 10 a.m. tomorrow. So anyone in the chat that's interested and doesn't yet have a ticket for the home game in the second leg, a small number of tickets will be made available tomorrow at 10 a.m. Newcastle, the club, have just announced. So if you haven't got your ticket, get in there, get your ticket for the game. There is still a small number available, so that'll be interesting. There'll be a right scramble for that tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Absolutely.
About it. But from my perspective, if we get a clean sheet, that's good for me, because that means that we can go in with a blanket in the second leg. Whether it's a 0-0 draw, 1-0, 2-0, whatever. I think as long as we don't concede, because I think if we concede early, for example, against Southampton, that's going to raise your levels. You're going to be bang up for that. Then you're going to want to go for a second and a third. So we need to stay resolute and strong. But I'm confident of us doing that, and the reason being is because of our defensive record that Mike talked about before. The best in the Premier League. Again, although it's a disappointing result for us at the weekend, not beating Palace with the domination of possession and chances, we never really, apart from the Pope chance late on, which was self-inflicted, we overplayed the ball. We never ever looked like conceding a goal at any point in the game. So I know we can go away at home. This is the first time since Sir Bobby Robson that I've been confident that we can go away from home and not concede. And even then, I was still not as confident as I am now. The way we were organised, I don't think I've ever seen Newcastle be as organised defensively as we have been now. So I'm always confident that we're going to keep goals to a minimum. You know, like St Mary's last time, we conceded one. It was 4-1, but we were always capable of conceding a goal. But I'm always confident that we're going to minimalise it to the absolute minimum. So for me, the biggest question is, can we score the goals that we didn't against Palace? Can we do that at St Mary's to make the difference? And that's a big thing for us. Now, what I wanted to talk about, and we had a little brief chat about this just before we came on air, is that, we bigged up one of your centre-backs. Is Bella Kachum, if I'm pronouncing that right?
Bella Kopchap.
Kochap, sorry, I apologise. Bella Kochap.
ABK, there you go. ABK.
Yeah. And he, you talked really, really positively about him, Mike, the last time we were on. German international, really, really top centre back, and playing really well. I think he's only 20. Is that right? 20 years old.
I think he may even be younger than that, if I'm honest.
Okay, so possibly
he's
around
young.
19, 20. And
exactly. A bit younger than me.
He didn't play. just a bit. He didn't play at the weekend against Villa. Now, obviously, he was the one player I was thinking, we're going to have to get past him because he looks like a real player. But what's the chances of him potentially playing tomorrow night? Is there a chance, or is the injury going to keep him out beyond this point?
I would doubt it. I don't think we'll see him tomorrow night. I mean, he wasn't even in contention for the weekend with the knee issue, so I think it will probably be rested, because I don't think there's an awful lot wrong with our centre back. I was going to say pairing, but there's three of them now. The only sort of one that might be switched out is maybe Bianco, but Nathan Jones really likes him. And Nathan Jones, actually, I overheard him speaking Portuguese on the touchline because we got tickets right behind the dugout last time in the League Cup game. And he really gets on well. Good Christian values, all that kind of stuff that he gets on well with a Brazilian lad. So yeah, I mean, but I would be surprised if Bella Kopchap comes in. He's more of a good pairing. So I'm not sure he's played as a 3. I might be completely wrong with that in terms of what he's done in the German league and played internationally, but I think he's pretty much only used to playing in a 2 because he kind of looked a little bit lost last time he had to play as a 3. So he might be out of favour even if he is fit, but I'd be surprised.
Interesting. A player that didn't play last time that I'm a big fan of that should be playing tomorrow night is this man, Kyle Walker-Peters. Back from injury. I've not really watched too much of Southampton recently. Is he playing well? Interestingly, it seems like he's playing on the left-hand side for you.
That's right, yeah. He's been playing on the left mainly because of Peru hasn't been fully fit to be our standard left back position. Yeah. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. He's pretty much as good everywhere, really. We've still got Tino Livramento out injured for a long period, so I'm not sure if we're going to see him anytime soon at all. Where Kyle Walker-Peters is playing now is more of like a wing back role. So as in before, he would pretty much go all the way right back to the corner flag, and he'd be the one sort of laying in the cross into the centre, the 5-yard box. But he's now playing slightly higher. Perhaps, he doesn't have to track back as much as he used to, which gives him a bit more license to move forward in more of a forward position. But I also think that it doesn't really give him as much space to play, if that makes sense. So in terms of where he is on the wing, he's pretty much on the touchline, as in normally he'd have a bit more of the pitch to work in and sort of catch, the opposition by surprise. So he's playing very much a different role, but he's playing good now. Yeah, he's playing good.
Yeah, big player. Would love him at Newcastle. I've got
Hands
to be
off.
honest.
Get off.
No, I keep saying it. I'd love him at Newcastle. I think he's a top player. Look, Chris, does that make a difference to how we attack? Because interestingly, that should mean That's Kyle Walker-Peters up against Almiron, both very pacey,
Mm.
quick on the ball. Good matchup.
Yeah, no, it is a good matchup to be fair. And obviously, if Kyle Walker-Peters is playing as a wing back, chances are he's going to be coming up against Trippier as well, isn't he? So it's a very interesting matchup. And we've spoken in length, haven't we, on the previous show about Kyle Walker-Peters and how much we rate him. And I think Mike was quoting us 50 million last time we spoke. So I don't know whether that price could go up. Yeah, it could go. It could if he has a fantastic game. It could. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting matchup. But I wanted to touch as well on what Mike was saying earlier. Like when you were going through the pictures pre-show, Pete, and Mike mentioned that Southampton have got a very young squad. Like when you look at the players that Southampton have got, again, the recruitment's been spot on, hasn't it? Some fantastic players there. And we were talking about Bella Kotchap on the last show. And we were, if you remember, Pete, we were astounded, weren't we, that he was in the Germany squad at 20. So some great players, really, really great players. So it's going to be a lot more difficult than what, say, the league table suggests, because obviously Hasenhüttl's gone out, and what's the name of the new manager? Nathan Jones. Yep. Nathan Jones. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to ask it now because I don't know what he's on about, and I'm hoping Mike's going to give us a little sing-song. Loads of people have been going on about where is it?
Apparently it's a Bananarama
song. I know
Mike knows what's coming.
Yeah. I can't hum it to you, but I know there is one. So yeah, I don't know why there's a song called Nathan Jones. So
there it is. To coin a phrase, wondering about that. Do you sing the Supremes Bananarama song for Nathan Jones?
Not yet. No. I don't think many. I think the demographic and probably the age group probably sort of I have no idea what that song is. So it's but yeah, it's a fun one, certainly.
I'm gonna have to search that later. Interested to hear that.
The whole chat section's on Spotify now again. What is this?
Yeah, Bananarama.
Right. Look, we'll switch tact. We'll talk about a couple of Southampton players. We'll talk about a couple of Newcastle players. So we don't know what team's going to put out there. I've got an idea of what we're going to be put out there. But look, from your perspective, Mike, we've got all of our players back now, apart from Shelvey. Matt Target, who Kraft, who's long term, they're the only real two players out at the moment in time. Shelvey and Matt Target. We've got Bruno back. He went from this 7 days ago back to this smiley Bruno within 6 days. I don't know how he managed to do it. It was a miracle, but he's back. Played 90 minutes on Saturday. He's back in there, but we've got ASM, we've got Isak, we've got Wilson, all back in contention. Who out of those players are you most worried about potentially starting or being the danger men for you tomorrow night?
I would never wish ill of any player, but I certainly, when I saw Bruno and crutches, I was thinking, ooh, that looks nice for our League Cup tie. Do you know what? It is Bruno, because he was so creative, and he tends to be able to sort of create a lot of things that have caused many clubs many troubles, and scores goals from everywhere. I mean, I remember that fourth goal going in. As I'm sure many of your subscribers will also have seen the video on my channel of literally interrupting my full-time analysis with his fourth going in. I mean, he's certainly one I'm worried about. Saint Maximin, not as much as it used to be. I mean, he used to be a player that we were always terrified of. He's always a threat with his pace, but more of a kind of an impact player for you, I would guess now. But in terms of the Juventus trophy, I mean, I haven't seen as much of his act, but I don't think you guys have seen that much of him, because he was out injured for a large period of time, wasn't he, or something like that?
Months.
But clearly a talented forward. And it's kind of making me even more jealous of the fact that you've got so much talent up front, and we're lacking in terms of bodies. We don't have as much of a selection to pick from. So I'd be worried about all of those. But to be honest, I'm more worried about being able to get a goal through you, in terms of being able to get a goal. Because was the last time you conceded? Was that Roman Peru goal at St Mary's? Was that the last goal you conceded?
Someone's literally just put it in the chat. Back in November, that was the last Premier League goal we've conceded. Hell of a start.
So, which is nuts, when you think about it. So I'm quite, yay, got a goal against you. We're the last ones to score against you. It's kind of quite nice to know that we got that trophy on the mantle. So yeah, it's more that side of it that I'm thinking, can we get a goal past you? But yeah, some dangerous threats on there.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've got a fantastic back line at this moment in time. The likes of Botman and Shaw are just absolutely we wax lyrical about them all the time, Chris, don't we? About how good they are as a defensive pairing, but we're forgetting Trippier, experienced English international, Dan Burn on the left hand side, not even a natural left back, but playing so well there, certainly from a defensive point of view, and he's trying to improve his attacking intent. And then you got Pope that's got 12 clean sheets already this season. He's well ahead in terms of the clean sheet march this season, playing really, really well. Like, he's in the prime of his career, there's no doubt about it. And he's playing fantastic. The same against Crystal Palace just proved that. So we've got those players in there. And look, we will talk about very, very, these are the guys that have done the business, and will continue to. And this is why I've got so much confidence in us, not conceding too many in this game, in the build up from my perspective. But we'll come to this in a second with the tactics board. But as always, look, on away days, we can't go any further unless we have a little bit of stats, should we say? Magic, he appears as always. Double O Stats. How are you, my friend? You okay?
I'm very well, thanks. I don't know if I'm coming or going here. This is too early in the week for me, but hey, things must be going in the right direction if there's the team's playing more. Nice to see you again, Mike.
Good to see
last time you were on.
I'm not looking forward to the stats that are going to ruin my evening, but bring them on. Come on.
It's an up and down roller coaster. I always try to give a little bit better balance for there to be an up and down roller coaster. So there is good and bad.
Go for it.
Good.
So I'm going to try and sort of make this a bit more cup based as well about the Newcastle Southampton stats, because they have played each other a bit in the cups rather than the Premier League. So the Old Town record, I've touched on it before. So they've played 105 games. Slightly more wins for Newcastle, 43 to Southampton's 38 in this fixture, with 24 draws. So quite a competitive, closely matched fixture, this one. In the cups, so this is comprising of mainly like the FA Cup and, surprisingly, the Old Fairs Cup that Newcastle played in with Southampton in the early 70s. They've played each other 6 times in the cups. Newcastle have got a slightly better record in that as well, with 3 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat. Newcastle have got a slightly better offensive record in the fixture in the Premier League era, 73 goals compared to 67 goals for Southampton. And while Southampton have got a slightly better defensive record, 8 clean sheets to Newcastle's 7. Newcastle have had a really decent record against Southampton in recent years. It's sort of like in the last 5 years, they've played each other 11 times. Newcastle have won 7, drawn 3 and lost 1. And Newcastle's record at St Mary's, we always used to dread going down to Southampton from back in the days of the Dell. But since 2001-2, since moving to the St Mary's, in 14 games, Newcastle have won 4. They've drawn 4, and they've lost 6. And I think in the last 4 of the last 5, or at least 3 of the last 5 have been wins for Newcastle down at St Mary's. Before moving to St Mary's, Newcastle's record at the Dell, that basically in 15 games, that had 4 draws and 11 defeats going back to 1972. So an awful record back at the old Dell. We were certainly happy to see Southampton move from that classic traditional ground. The 2-0 defeat at St Mary's in 2020-2021 was Newcastle's only defeat in 11 games. So really good home and away. And Newcastle won consecutive league games against Southampton for the first time ever. They had won consecutive games in the Cup and the League at St Mary's back in 2004, but this unbelievably was the first time they'd won back-to-back in the league consecutively in consecutive seasons. Moving on to managers with Eddie Howe, and in 16 games against Southampton, he's won 4, he's drawn 5, and he's lost 7. So quite a little mixed record there against Southampton. Callum Wilson, moving on to players, he's got 4 goals in 11 games against Southampton. And Southampton's top goal scorers this season, Che Adams, 8 goals in 23 games, and James Ward-Prowse has 7 goals in 24 games. Nick Pope, who you've touched on earlier, has the most clean sheets in the Premier League. We're saying it every week, 12 clean sheets in total this season, compared to Gavin Bazzuno with 1 clean sheet for Southampton out of, I think, 23 games for Southampton this season. I want to just speak a bit more positively about Southampton here. I did say it was a bit of a roller coaster, and he has some stats which hopefully will please you here, Mike. Southampton have saved their best form this season for the League Cup. They've won 3 games already at St Mary's Stadium against Sheffield Wednesday, Lincoln City, and Manchester City. They've scored 5 goals in those games and they've conceded just 2. But in the Premier League, for the balance, they've only won 1 game in 10 at St Mary's this season, 2-1 to Chelsea in August, and they've conceded twice as many goals than they've scored. They've conceded 35 goals to 17, so they're losing games on average 2-1. Newcastle's point at Palace saw them break the record of 14 top-flight games without a defeat. They'd done that in 1950 and 2011, but that was across seasons. It was never in one season altogether. So that's a fantastic record there that Newcastle have set there, albeit we were a little bit disappointed with a 0-0 draw on the balance of play on Saturday night. Newcastle's run as well of keeping a clean sheet in the first half as well, that's even longer. They're now the first team in more than 20 years since Liverpool to go 16 Premier League games without conceding in the first half. So that's amazing if you think of that treble winning side that Liverpool had in the early 2000s. And Southampton, they're striving to reach their 3rd League Cup final in their history, where incidentally and coincidentally, in 1979 and 2017, they lost 3-2. Same scoreline, they lost to Nottingham Forest and then Manchester United most recently in 2017. Whereas Newcastle, they're striving to reach just their 2nd League Cup final, with the first being back in 1976. And that is the Southampton and Newcastle stats for the League Cup.
Superb, mate.
Thank
Superb. You. And you know what? I love the stats anyway, but I love the stats. You put a different slide on it with the cup fever. Building. You gave a real good perspective from a cup perspective. So I love that. I love that, Keith. And as always, as a channel, and certainly in away days, we are always balanced, and it's something we pride ourselves on. So, yeah, the fact that you obviously gave that Southampton perspective, Keith, is a nice touch. So, fair play to you. Fair play. Great stuff as always. And look, it's going to be interesting. Some of those stats are going to change after tomorrow. They are, because it always happens. So it'll be really interesting to see how it all unfolds. But I just want to. We've got short time left. I just want to talk about two things. I want to go to the tactics board and just have a quick look at that. I want to get some quick fire questions in, and then we'll round up with predictions. So first and foremost, the tactics board. Now, you'll see from my tactics board, there are players missing in the Newcastle team because I've not quite yet decided on who I'm going for. And, I want Chris's perspective and Keith's perspective. But, Mike, I put this team out, and look, it's the same team that started at Aston Villa. So I obviously it was a quick turnaround for this show, so I didn't get to ask you your predicted 11. Is there anyone that you would change in that starting 11, bring in, or who you're expecting to start that's not on that list right there, and would you be happy with that team to start tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. If I had my answer to IBM about, I'd probably have to say that probably would be the starting 11 that would start tomorrow night. It's possible that we could see Alex McCarthy come in for Bazunu. And also I kind of feel that Diallo may be switched out for someone. Because perhaps Maitland-Niles, or maybe someone else who can play that role. Those two players that I've mentioned there were the only real liabilities on the pitch on Saturday. We're very shaky in terms of for set pieces. The goal we conceded to Aston Villa was just horrendous. No one was marking Ollie Watkins, and really it's one of those free kicks where any other game we would have played everyone offside and it would have been not a goal. So it was very frustrating to concede the way that we do. And Baz didn't have a lot to do. But I'm going to give Bazunu a lot of slack here, because let's face it, he was playing League One football last season, and all of a sudden he's got to come in and play Premier League quality, strikers day in, day out. So I think he's been thrown in at the deep end, if I'm honest. So I'm going to come some slack there. But I would say those two positions, Diallo and Bazunu, you could see some changes there.
Daniel Much has said, so confident of the win, he's only put 8 players out. I'm not yet decided on the rest of the team.
I'll take it. That's fine.
Mike would take that 100%. That is for sure. Especially some of the players that are left out. But yeah, really interesting points from yourself, Mike, especially the goalkeeper, Alex McCarthy, potentially coming in. That's an interesting one. For sure. But yeah, I thought it might roughly be that team. One or two might change, of course. It's always the potential of that. But I had them in, and just before we came to the tactics board, I took them out because I wasn't quite sure. So look, this is who I think we will go with. So I think Joe Linton.
Yeah, agree.
Will play here. I think Alice Maximum will play there.
Agree. The last one. I've got a firm idea on this last one, but Pete, you may differ.
I think. Oh, who are we going for? This is who I think will start tomorrow. Callum Wilson.
Oh.
Okay. I think he's going to stick with Callum Wilson for this game. I've just got a feeling he's going to stick with him. And look, I gave my reasons on the review show why I think it's not just all about him being, unfit after COVID and obviously not scoring since October. I think there's reasons for that, and that are not necessarily his fault. But I think with some of the scrutiny, particularly in the media and the fans around Callum Wilson, this is the perfect opportunity for him to go into this game and prove people wrong and go in there and score the goals. If he doesn't, I think this will happen in the next game, in the return leg. This will happen, no doubt about it. But this will be, in my opinion, Eddie Howe's basically kick up the backside to Wilson to say, right, You show us what you're all about. And if he doesn't, he'll be out. And I just think that's the team. These 5, back 4 and Pope, they're what I call the non-negotiables. They're in, they start. As long as they're fit, they're firing, they're in the team. Longstaff comes in because of his work rate. I think it's going to be crucial in this particular game. I think he's going to cover a lot of ground for us. Joe Willock, although good and gives a lot workmanlike, I think we need this in here. Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. We need the steel back in this midfield. To give us something different here. And what we need here is a little bit of the unpredictability of Alan Saint-Maximin to try and open up the game. It might mean going this way. There's a little bit of work here for Byrne to do with Edozie. But I think here, and Mike interestingly talked about him not being a natural right back and being potential liability for mistakes. This could be our way in from what Mike said earlier, with Alan Saint-Maximin going at him from the get-go. And this could be a really interesting turnaround. But look, just really quickly, Max, I don't want to spend too long on this because I think I've already spent a little bit longer than I anticipated. How do you think you're going to win the game against us tomorrow night?
I think we win the game by somehow shutting you out. I mean, I will say that I think that the 4-1 defeat that we had, as good as it was a performance from you guys, it kind of like flattered you a little bit. So I'm kind of thinking that, if we can shut you out and get a 1-0 or a 2-0 win, and that will come from basically being very, very solid at the back. And, I can see Ward-Prowse getting something done, playing a more forward role. Being able to have a bit more space to play, a bit more creativity, but that's really how I see it getting done. Something along those lines with because Ward-Prowse had the ball in the back of the net again on Saturday, ruled out for a very, very soft foul. Very frustrating to watch, but that's how I see it getting done.
Interesting. And look, Chris, I'll come to you really quickly. From your perspective, where do you think the game is going to be won for Newcastle United tomorrow night?
Do you know what? I'll answer this slightly differently. I think keeping a tight, firm grip on Ward-Prowse is going to be huge tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And we've also got to be very mindful of not giving away any crucial set pieces. No silly fouls, in and around the box. Try and limit the corners. In terms of winning the game, probably in our usual place, really. I mean, like we said before, the Walker-Peters, Almiron, Trippier battle will be interesting. But you highlighting and Mike earlier, about Lianco, or Lianco, sorry. I think if he's not a natural right back, then obviously you're looking at ASM, and I totally agree with you there, Pete. I think ASM starts tomorrow, and this is his opportunity. This is Eddie Howe saying to him, right, you want to be back in the starting 11. You want to be a big player for us. Go and prove it tonight. Go and prove it tonight, and try and run Southampton baggers. In fairness to Saint-Maximin, the last 2 performances where he's come on as sub, he's looked very promising. So I think now is the time to unleash him. And obviously there was a game, was it 2 or 3 games ago? It was against Sheffield Wednesday, where we all thought he was going to start and he didn't because he was ill. Yeah. So I think tomorrow night is the night for ASM. So for me, it's a big night for ASM, and it's a big night for the defenders, and particularly Sean Longstaff if he plays in that number 6 to keep an eye on Ward-Prowse.
Great points as always, Keith. Your perspective, do you agree with Chris? Is there anything different you want to add to where we could potentially win the game?
Yeah, for me, it's keep doing what they've been doing in the last few games, which is the strength is definitely the defence, and that's got to be breached and remain as it is. A confident defence breeds across the rest of the team. This is the game to do it, really, because Newcastle, I think, have got a point to prove in this game and over these next few fixtures. They've only scored once in 4 games, so there is a challenge gauntlet set down to the likes of ASM. If he is given that starting lineup for that level of unpredictability to stamp his claim in this fixture, he's had success at St Mary's in the past. Tomorrow's fixture, the chance for him again to state that claim. I do agree with Chris's points as well about Southampton with Ward-Prowse. I think there's concerns there if Newcastle concede any free kicks around the 30-yard area. He's hurt Newcastle in the past in Newcastle-Southampton fixtures from free kicks and from the penalty spot again. So he's a very dangerous player, one of the best that I've seen in recent years in England from dead ball pieces. So they don't want to be conceding any dead balls. So, and I bang the drum a bit like I did on the last show. I want to see Isak at some point as well. If it's not working, I want him maybe brought on in the second half. If ASM's not doing it, bring Isak on. Could we not play him as a number 10 as well? Having a go at goal as well.
Yeah. There's no reason why not. And look, this is it. We've got players that can come on and do a job now. So players have to perform. They have to perform at the levels that they're expected to. And this is the big test for a lot of players. I'm just going to, we've both touched on Ward-Prowse. I think it's a big game for Longstaff because Longstaff, I've set the team up. This is likely how it's going to be. Longstaff in this, Ward-Prowse in this number 10 area here. Longstaff is going to have to shepherd him really, really well. And I think if we win this game, it will be down to the work of Longstaff here. Equally, if it's not working, either here with Almiron or Anisette Maximin, as I talked about last night, I want this to happen. I want that natural winger to be able to run down the wing, whip the ball in for Callum Wilson to get in on the end of it, either side. I want to see that happen if it's not working. If it's working, fine. If we're getting a lot of joy, fine. But at some point, I want to see that switch at some point. But look,
Pete, just to jump in really quickly, do you think there's any possibility, if it's not working with Almiron on the right, do you think there's any possibility of seeing Maxi switch to the right and then Almiron come off and maybe bring Isak on the left?
Yeah, 100%. He can come in here. Isak can play either side, but predominantly he likes to play on that left-hand side. And there's no reason why that can't happen. Or there's no reason why we don't go to this and we ultimately
4-2-3-1.
Yeah, we ultimately go to a 2 like we did against Fulham. We ultimately go to a 2 and we've got ASM on the left or switch him on the right, Joe Linton there, and we go there and we're going for the win. But that for me only happens if we're behind by 1 or 2 goals. If it's like 2-0, 3-1, and we're looking to get a goal in the game to try and make the tie an interesting one in the second leg, this is maybe how we set up. But for me, like it can happen, of course, but I personally wouldn't start with it because I'd want us to keep tight and keep our system. But yeah, there's no reason why that can't happen. No doubt about it. But it's going to be an interesting one. Going to be very, very interesting. Now, obviously, we talked about that a little bit longer than I anticipated. Mike, have you got to shoot, or have you got a few minutes just to answer a couple of questions?
No, you're good. You're good. Yep.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Chris has just put in the private chat, Fulham are all over Spurs. I'm watching it. They should be at least 1-0 up right now. And we are pulling for Fulham right now because obviously Spurs being in 5th. So we'll see how it materializes. But look, Chris, I know there's a number of questions in there for Mike. Do you want to fire a few his way before we go to predictions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Well, this is just a quick comment. Mark Pearson says Newcastle are the only side left in the Carabao Cup that have never won it. It's our time. Hopefully that's the case, Mark. I'm sure Mike will disagree, but hopefully that's the case. Really, really good question. Have you? Yeah.
I'm not sure. We've won the FA Cup. We won the FA Cup and the Johnson Pate Trophy, but I'm not sure we won the League Cup, have we?
Unfortunately, Southampton haven't won it either. Mike's right. 79 and 2017 were the times that they got to the final and lost by 3-2.
And we were robbed by Man United because we had a wrongly ruled offside goal by Gabbiadini, which would have seen us lift the trophy, which would have been very
That was the late Ibrahimovic goal, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So that would have changed the game completely. So, VAR. It's here.
Love it.
This is a really good question from PDK, Mike. What's more important for the Saints, Premier League survival or the Cup?
Good question.
I mean, I think the league position is certainly very, very important to the club. I think if you ask them, most fans, they might actually take a trophy. If they think deep down, in terms of like, you look back at the season where you lift a trophy, it's a trophy, isn't it? So, where we are in the league at the moment, if we were to go down, and a lot of fans have resigned themselves to that happening, what exactly would change in terms of our transfer policy? Because we'd still be buying players at a low cost and developing players and doing things like that. So I don't know. I think if you ask the club, they would say Premier League survival. If you ask most of the fans, they might say cup. What am I saying? I might say cup actually as well.
Tom Dixon asks, do you think Jones is a much better manager than Ralph Hasenhüttl?
It's too early to say. I would say I think Ralph was thrown under the bus at Southampton because he was promised a lot of things and he didn't have a lot to work with. So I think if we'd had a replacement for Oriol Romeu when he left in the summer, rather than just focusing on Romeo Lavia, who went out injured, and if we got an out-and-out striker in the summer, then he'd probably still be our manager. Is Nathan Jones a better manager? Time will tell. I think he's a very different manager with different tactics completely. So jury's out. I can't really give an answer to that because I've only seen the best of one of them, and I've not seen the best of Nathan Jones yet, albeit the last fixture in the Carabao Cup was a 2-0 impressive win against Manchester City. So that's the best I've seen us under Nathan Jones, but that's one performance. So time will tell on that one.
Yeah. Very well, I've got to ask this question because Ben Cavill, thank you very much for tuning in, by the way, mate. Ben Cavill's, and I think a couple of other people asked this question. What are your thoughts on Jan Bednarach?
Oh, he has split our fan base. Something chronic. Just to give a bit of background story to anyone that was unaware, when he went to Aston Villa, he said in his statement that it was very important to him to move to a bigger club to progress himself as a player, which naturally rubbed salt in the wounds of, everyone at Southampton, because we were thinking like, this guy's on loan. Like, if you're leaving a club and you say something salty like that, then it's like, okay, well, be God, like, this guy might actually come back. So it was a bit of a shock. If I'm honest, I think it was lost in translation a bit, because I think anyone going to a new club will want to excite the fan base. And I think with the sort of questions that he's asked, in terms of like, say something that will get the fans going, in terms of like that, they're kind of pushed in these positions. And I think he kind of left with a little bit of sore feeling towards the club in terms of how he was treated, how he was played, and his performances. So, maybe that sort of rubbed him the wrong way. But I think everyone's making a bit too much of it, really. And I think, as soon as he puts on a Southampton shirt, puts in the performance, everything will be forgiven. And at the end of these days, these guys are all, playing for whatever shirt they're wearing at the time, So, yeah, mixed feelings on that. But I welcome him back. So there we go.
Yeah. PDK asks, and it might lead nicely on to the next part of the show. What realistic result would Saints fans take now if offered?
Realistic, I think 1-0 we take. I just want to still be worst case scenario. Okay, I still want to be in a tie against St James's Park because it's a long way to drive up north from where we are. So I'm really hoping that this ticket that's going to be arriving in the post soon, that we're still going to be in a tie when we go up to St James's Park. So realistically, still in the tie. Idealistically, a 1-0 or something nil win.
We obviously hope very different.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
I need to make St James's Park anxious in some way or another. I don't know. I've only been there once, and it was as a neutral fan watching Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. And I remember you guys got a corner, and this guy next to me jumped on me like you scored a goal. It was just the most intense thing I'd ever experienced. So I know you guys are going to be well up for it. So I just need to somehow, get you rattled in some way. So, yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Any more? One more to go?
Yeah, let's. Well, Frederick Axelson, we've already answered this question, Frederick, in a roundabout way, but I just wanted to put this up because he said that he really enjoys your match day videos, Mike. So I wanted to throw that up
They're
there.
brilliant. They're brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's the
Foxy
most watched
asks-
video on my channel now. Actually, that Newcastle 4.
Oh, really?
So yeah, cheers for the ad revenue, boys. But yeah, that's all good.
This is an interesting one from Foxy. He says, do you think Alcaraz will get his chance to shine for Southampton this season? Talented kid, but not easy to come into a new league country with the team fighting relegation.
Yeah, great question. He could be one that comes in for Diallo. I know he was brought on, I think, in the previous fixture. She came on in the Everton game, and I didn't get to see a lot of that game, but he looked pretty fired up and pretty with the team there. He's a bit of a live wire apparently, so he's known to sort of pick up a yellow and occasional dismissal, but he's a young player that wants to obviously make an impact in the Premier League. So I think he'll definitely get his chance, mainly because we're lacking in that kind of area, despite the fact that he'll probably be sat a little bit deeper than he normally would, because of the progression of like Orsic coming in on like a left or right side position and Ward-Prowse being pushed further forward. So it all depends on the performances of others in the squad, but yeah, I can certainly see him being used, and from what we've seen so far, perhaps a little bit shaky at times, but he's moving to the Premier League, the toughest league of any sport in the world. He's going to have to really sort of bring his A game to, and it will take time, but yeah, I can definitely see him being given a shout here.
And then one very, very final question before we move on to the predictions. Would I Eat Here has asked, would you have rathered Man United or Newcastle?
Oh, what a question. That's a really good question. Do you know what? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, after watching Man United sort of be so rugged against Arsenal yesterday, and seeing what they're doing in terms of like performances on the road, there ain't a lot in it if there's anything. I just see perhaps us scoring more easily against Manchester United. So in terms of like who I would prefer, I think it's pretty even actually. I would prefer Nottingham Forest because they were by far the worst team we've had at St Mary. I mean, they beat us 1-0, which was brutal, but they are by far the worst team we've seen at St Mary's this season, and we've seen some shockers. We've had Everton come in and beat us, but yeah, it's we've had Nottingham Forest. So if anyone can arrange that, and then we can meet in the final, and we can both have a one day out, I'd much prefer that. But perhaps too late for that now, I guess.
Mike, sorry, I've just seen a last minute question come in the chat, and I've got to ask it. Georgie team for life.
I think I know it. Yeah, who you could ask.
Are you any good at climbing steps?
I've heard all about this. The Leazes end, isn't it? Where basically you I don't know how you guys get away with this, where you basically put away fans in space
Right
to
in the
watch your
corner.
games. It's just absolutely insane. I'm sure there was some legislation that you had to have some connection with the pitch, or they were trying to bring that in. But yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't apply. Once you get past the Midlands and you go a bit further north, it doesn't apply to the northeast because our friends down in the north, just down 14 miles down the road, they do it in League One and in the Championship as well. You've got to go up the stairs there as well.
I see.
So anywhere but the northeast, it doesn't apply. Devolution and all.
Yeah, they do it in the Spanish leagues as well. I've seen that at the Bernabeu. Basically, I was fortunate to see Madrid's Bayern Munich semi-final there, and they literally had the Bayern Munich fans. Literally, I mean, I was in one of the top tiers, and they still look like they were all up there. It was just the craziest thing.
Nou Camp in Barcelona too. Like the away fans are just way up.
Yeah, stick them up there.
Get
rid of them. Yeah.
Up in the gods. But yeah.
Daniel Much says, Mike, do you own a pair of binoculars?
I'll tell you what, I own a drone, but it wasn't me on Saturday. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, brilliant stuff. But no, great questions as always from those in the chat, and top man Chris for rattling through them as quickly as possible. Look, as always in away days, as we wrap up the show, we always look for predictions. So Chris, I'm going to start with you tomorrow at let's say 10 o'clock. What do you think the score is going to be at St Mary's?
I think, I mean, given you've got to take notice of that stat, haven't you? The last team we conceded the goal to in the Premier League, Southampton. For me, and I think it'd be a good result, and I'd take it. I'm going to say 1-1.
Interesting. I thought you might go for a draw because I think you mentioned it a few times during the show. So I think I thought that might be your mindset. But yeah, 1-1. Okay. Mike, we'll come to you as the away fan. What do you think the away fan on the show, home fan tomorrow? What do you think the result is going to be tomorrow night at St. Mary's?
What do I think it's going to be? Oh, this is a tough one. Do you know, I can see us scoring. Okay, I don't know how I'm coming to that conclusion with your clean sheet record, but that kind of mad back your own team sort of bias is coming through me now. If I'm completely honest, I would take a 1-1 and be kind of pleased with that, in the sense that we'd able to, get a goal past you, and we'd kept the goal scoring tally down. Because let's face it, we've the only clean sheet we've had at St Mary's was against City in the Carabao Cup previous round. So, but you know what? I'm going to back them. I'm going to go 1-0 Southampton win. All to do at St James's Park and get you boys rattled somehow.
No, fair play. Keith.
And I'll just hit you with another stat here that in '76, the first leg of Newcastle's semi-final was 1-0 to Tottenham before Newcastle beat them 3-1 back at St James's before getting to the final. So anything could happen, really.
What do you think tomorrow night? Are you on the fence or are you off the fence? Are you confident?
Yeah, I've got to say this one. It is a tricky game. I don't think we can discount Southampton's cup form. There's something about the League Cup this season at St Mary's that gets Southampton though. Nobody would have thought they would have been able to blast Man City the way they did in the quarterfinals. This is going to be a tricky game. I think we need to view this under the lights, an evening fixture in the cup, two-legged affair, as a different match to the one down at Hazenhutl's last match. It's going to be a tricky game. I'm sort of on the fence here with Chris. I think this could be another nil-niller this for the first leg, because if you look at it, Newcastle have had 3 0-0 draws in 4 games. With the Isak goal, the late goal, there is a bit of an issue here, a temporary issue. The goals have dried up from Almiron, and that's why I'm saying and I'm advocating playing Isak a bit more, doing something a little bit different to try and get the goals flowing again. I think this could either be a 0-0 or a 1-1. And again, don't rule out a shock here as well with Ward-Prowse and, Gineppo. And I think there's Southampton have got some real good options there to give Newcastle a fright. On the fence.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. A lot of what I think it's kind of reserved predictions, should we say? The little reserved predictions there from a few on the panel. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. We're gonna win 1-0 away from home. A solid defensive performance, and we're gonna nick a goal. That's what I'm gonna go for. And you know what? I'm even gonna throw the goal scorer in. I think the goal scorer is gonna be Sean Longstaff tomorrow night. I think if he starts, I think he scores. I don't know why. I just think it could potentially be his night. But I think we'll get the win and take it up to St James's Park. But look, fantastic show. So many viewers over the course of the show tonight. Great comments from everyone. Fantastic questions as always. It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed it. And Mike, thank you for taking the time. I know it was last minute. We sorted it out, but thank you for taking the time to come and join us and talk all things Southampton and Newcastle. And look, after these 2 legs, the best of luck for the rest of the season. No doubt. I'm sure we'll get you on again. in the build up maybe to the second leg, and certainly the return fixture at St James's Park. But look, huge thank you to everyone in the chat. Keith, your stats get better and better every week. Absolutely fantastic with everything, and I can't say thank you without thank you the sponsors. Thank you to the radiatorshed.com. Russ is in the chat, so make sure that you are, if you're not already, you're supporting all things Radiator Shed, and you're supporting our fantastic sponsor. And of course, they are providing top quality materials made from plate steel, providing longevity, all designed and manufactured in Italy. Aluminium rads are very environmentally friendly and perfect for heat source pumps, and they offer a home survey service. And of course, the new picture, look at those colors, outstanding. And you've even got the black and white in there as well if you want to mix and match. So get involved with some of the quality radiators that are available. And it's a perfect time as well because it's freezing. So you need a radiator to keep yourself warm in these winter months, no doubt about it. Now, what I will do is share to you, I don't know if I'm allowed to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, is our new sponsor, okay? Bathroom Design Co. H2O. A huge new sponsor for Loaded Mag NUFC, giving you everything in quality bathrooms. The Northeast largest supplier of Villeroy and Botch bathroom wear. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established and ran by the family. Get down to the showrooms on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate, Gateshead. So that's our new sponsor. And you can see by the pictures, outstanding quality there. So get involved with our new sponsor. I'll put it up again, Bathroom Designs Co. H2O. Get involved with our fantastic sponsor, and there is more to come, no doubt about it. And look, if you want to become a member of Loaded Mag NUFC, click that blue button. Only can do it on laptop, not on mobile. Come and join the Loaded family, and we are on the march to 6K. So if you're new to the chat, and we've got lots of new fans, including Southampton fans, Mike, you brought a following tonight, no doubt about it. Lots of Southampton fans in the chat. Come and click.
Red Army.
Yeah, there you go. Come and click the sub. Become a subscriber to Loaded Mag NUFC. No doubt we'll be doing a reaction show after the game, possibly on Wednesday. And come and support all things Loaded Mag NUFC. Mike, before you go, just plug where we can find you.
Yeah, you kindly put us in the title as well. Yeah, Matchday Vlogs on YouTube. We also just running an extra channel as well called Matchday Vlogs Extra, which I put sort of lots of extra little content, mainly the stuff I don't want to post on our channel because it's normally away fans celebrating. But it's all the little behind the scenes stuff as well. So go check that out as well. But we are approaching 4,000 subs on our YouTube channel, so all the support we can get is all greatly appreciated. You guys know what a difference that makes to the channel, and how that helps us pay for stuff and keep the lights on. But I can see that the Saudi money is coming in with your bathroom support. So yeah, that's looking nice. Look at that.
Bathrooms are looking
very nice.
Radiators, bathrooms. I think there's definitely a theme coming through here with spring around the corner and DIY.
There you go. I tell you what, I might have to invest in one of those bathrooms. They look outstanding.
Lovely.
For sure.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
But everyone in the title, Mike's channel on YouTube is there. Give it a sub. Check out his previous work on there, and obviously some of the stuff that you put on there. And we watched the Newcastle game, the 4-1. It's a great watch, and it's great content. So please check it out and show your support. And as well, click our sub whilst you're there, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, lads and lasses in the chat. Pleasure as always, Chris, the main man. Thank you for taking the time. Always, it's a pleasure. Brandy and Blaze, back in business. Pray for the win tonight. I know I know you're the same, but the opposite way, Mike. But we pray for that win tomorrow night. Let's hope that the boys do the business, and of course,
give us a wave in the itching section. Any travelling fans coming down to St Mary's tonight, I'll be literally to your left above the accessible section, where some of the disabled access is there. So we're literally just above there. So give us a wave, and I'll wave back. And there's always a guy beneath us who's waving in another way, but it's always done in a friendly way. But
if you watch the vlogs in preparation, you'll see from where he's situated that he's right near the away fans, because you can see them celebrating. Certainly the ones at St Mary's anyway when you watch it back, but you can see where he's situated, and you can give him a nice wave in a nice way.
Exactly. And next Tuesday I'll be up in the leaders, near the front, as far forward as I could possibly get. So yeah, you can give us a wave there as well.
Definitely. But look, let's get into it. It's the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. Hopefully Newcastle now to get the business done, but of course we'll leave it to Eddie Howe and his boys to do the business. And of course, we do love playing away.